in tonight with fast-moving developments in Los Angeles. President Trump deploying 2,000 National Guard members after violence and chaos erupts during immigration protests outside a federal building just moments ago. Police declared it an unlawful assembly. Those troops descending on the streets of L.A. Governor Gavin Newsom is blasting the move, calling it, quote, purposefully inflammatory and an alarming abuse of power. Nearly a dozen arrests overnight as some protesters tossed objects at officers, police using tear gas and flashbang grenades to disperse the crowd. Today, protesters were back out on the streets for the third consecutive day, some marching in downtown LA. And police and protesters also squaring off here in New York City. Tonight, the Trump administration says California officials could face federal charges over their response. ABC's Matt Gutman is in Los Angeles and leads us off.
Tonight, hundreds of National Guard troops are deployed on the streets of Los Angeles. A convoy of heavily armed and camouflaged troops arriving overnight, establishing staging areas at downtown federal facilities. President Trump calling up 2,000 members of the National Guard in an effort to stamp out clashes that broke out over the weekend between law enforcement and demonstrators protesting ICE deportations. Tensions boiling over after immigration authorities conducted a series of sweeps in recent days, arresting more than 100 immigrants in Los Angeles over the course of last week. Dozens of demonstrators arrested since the clashes broke out Friday. Officers in riot gear using tear gas and flashbangs to disperse protesters, some of whom hurled projectiles. And in an extraordinary scene Saturday afternoon, a Black Hawk helicopter landing in the parking lot of a Homeland Security office. Agents unloading supplies for law enforcement. And we were there this evening as that standoff continued outside a federal facility in downtown Los Angeles. This is one of the tear gas canisters that was just deployed against some of the couple of hundred people here. And on this side, there are about 100 federal law enforcement, California National Guard. The president bypassing California's governor, authorizing the troop deployment for 60 days late Saturday, saying in a memo, the protests constitute a form of rebellion against the United States. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth adding on social media that the administration is also considering mobilizing active duty Marines if the clashes continue, an idea the president did not rule out late today.
What's the bar for sending Marines?
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order.
Local officials blasting the White House in response. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass writing, deploying federalized troops on the heels of these raids is a chaotic escalation. And California Governor Gavin Newsom calling the troop deployment purposefully inflammatory, adding the idea of deploying active duty Marines on U.S. soil is deranged. Today, Trump's allies in Washington defending the president's decision.
Do you have any problem or any concerns about the president sending in the National Guard to a place where local authorities say that they're not needed and could be harmful?
I have no concern about that at all. I think the president did exactly what he needed to do.
President Trump is putting the safety of the communities that are being impacted by these riots and by these protests that have turned violent. And he's putting the safety of our law enforcement officers first.
Lindsay, so this is the state of play. The LAPD has added reinforcements here in downtown. They've pushed hundreds and hundreds of protesters back, hundreds of yards. I just want to turn around so you can see the line of shells and canisters from flashbangs and less lethals that were used to disperse this crowd. They're still here. The standoff is ongoing. And just a reminder about the California National Guard. This is the first time that they were deployed by a president, bypassing a governor since 1965, Lindsay.
Yeah. All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rakah Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. The name of this lesson is, the LA Riots, Uproars of the people in the world. Okay, and all of this is a stage for the new world order. This is the banking elite's plan. Okay, they creating the order ad chaos, order out of chaos. Okay, they creating the chaos, the people react, and their solution is the new world order. They want everybody to have, the C-hip, Okay, you know, and all this is the sign at the end. Okay, okay, the Lord sending sedition among men. Okay, so let's get this precept here. Slack here. Oh, slack here, bear with me. Let's get the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15, and verse 14. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hand, you know, and you see in you know, the Northern Kingdom, okay, the so-called Mexicans and Latinos fighting against Esau, you know, okay, you know, and all that you know, and all that is wickedness, you know, because it was their land first, you know, Trump deporting, you know, so-called immigrants. Okay, it was their land first, and now Esau steal it. Okay, and now you want to deport them out of their own land. Okay. Verse 15, for the verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men, and in invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. Okay, and you see in the so-called Mexicans, you know, taking action. Okay, you know, throwing smoke bombs at the National Guard. Okay, you know, so this here is all, you know, is rumors or wars. Okay, let's get another precept. Okay, it's in the Blue Letter Bible here. Let's get Matthew 24 and verse 3. It says, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am a Mashiach, and shall deceive many, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, and see that ye be see that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. You know, so you know, we see in the wars, you know, okay, we see in and rumors of wars, okay, because it's not only happening in Los Angeles, it's happening in different places, you know, what they're not telling you, you know, all through Texas. Okay, so this have to happen so that the end could come. Okay. Okay, so let's get this precept here. Let's get Second Ezra again. Second Ezra chapter 9 and verse 1. It says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, you know, which this here is an uproar of the people in the world, okay? and the wicked, is behind this. Okay, for example, Trump, he deporting so-called immigrants, Okay, let's get this another precept. Plus, back in the Blue Letter Bible. Let's get this. Alright, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 19 and verse 1. Okay. The burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, and city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, all the plans, okay, what they have set up. And they shall seek to the idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. Verse 4, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, the Lord of hosts. Okay, which is that cruel lord is Trump. He ruling fiercely. Okay, and let's get this another precept. Let's get the book of Mark, chapter 3, and verse 24. Kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. Because now the elites, they done with the whole, with America. Okay, and now they're moving on to green pasture. To the green pasture, okay? They're moving on to the green pasture. Okay, verse 25. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against Satan, and be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end. Okay, verse 27. No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house. The strong man is Esau. Okay, so the Lord gonna take down the strong man, so he could destroy both of them. Okay, so the Lord is true mastermind. The Lord is true mastermind. He's destroying them in the inside. Okay, so these devils being divided too. Also, this last precept here. This is the book of 2 Thessalonians, chapter 2, and verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed. The Lord revealing these devils, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Okay, the Lord destroying the strong man. Okay, so I hope this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, Ba'asham Rakakudash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. Wa abad babal. Shalom.